And hello and welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel. I am your host, Tamara Caulder Richardson, and I'm glad you're here. We're doing a live segment today. And before I bring on my guest, I'm going to make a couple announcements. We're going to jump right into it. We have a very interesting topic today, something a little different. I can't wait to dive into it. But first of all, let me ask you to consider being a member and supporting this channel. That would really help. This is a lot of work and it's all for you, and I'm happy to do it. But any kind of donation would help. And make sure you make comments, and tell your friends, as well as please sign up for my Ascension School, Academy of Divine Wisdom. I have several classes that are coming up, and also you get a free Christ light meditation, the one that I had in my NDE. It kind of brings you to that oneness of light. And then as well, I'm having this weekend, you can go on there under events, the Academy of Divine Wisdom, and sign up for this weekend, a webinar, Opening Your Superpowers, Understanding Altered and Astral States. And then 12:02, I'll be having the second part of that, is learning to time jump and dimensional exploration. Just a little something you can learn, take home, tell the kids. And finally, if you want a reading, an evidential medium or life path session, which I am a psychic medium as well as a very highly trained evidential medium and trance and physical medium. I do work with the Akashic records. These are very helpful to people. And you can make payments, but these are good. So let me know if you need that. All right. So let's get to the show. Today we have a fantastic artist. First of all, man, beautiful work. We have our guest today, and that is Marie Antoinette Kelley. She has written the book, and I can't wait to hear about this. This is so cool. It's such a cool concept. It is about Danny's Day in Heaven, and it's based off of Dannion Brinkley's near-death experiences. And of course, he wrote the book Saved by the Light, which was the catalyst that triggered me when I read it in my 20s. And it's like, oh, it started getting me thinking. I started having these memories coming out. And then my 30s, I started coming out talking about my near-death experiences. So we're going to talk about the book, how that came about, and her artwork. She's amazing. As we go through it, we're going to learn more about her. And let me bring her on. Marie, glad you're here.
Yes, nice to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. Wow, you're really talented. And look, this is coming from a person that went to art school. And I know a lot of artists, and it's just, it's very spiritual. It's very soulful. And it's when art does that, it's doing its job, as far as I'm concerned. And it also is not only inspiring to people, but it activates them on a soul level. Don't you think, when you do spiritual art?
Well, I kind of feel that's how it fell into my lap, because I didn't go to art school. I actually was in science school trying to, go in that direction. And then my neighbor, I remember she moved, and I had two girls at the time, and she said, you homeschool, would you like this video cassette? Because I'm moving, I can't bring everything with me. And I looked at it. This is, 20 years ago when video cassettes were still a thing. It said, yes, you can draw. And I thought, wait, I used to draw. And that actually unlocked it all. So I really think it's a communication from the soul is a quite accurate assessment, because I think it came from somewhere deep in my soul. And that is the moment that unlocked it.
You can tell. And you can do many things in life. I just had a session with a young lady yet last evening. And she's like, can I be an actress and a teacher involved? I said, you live a long life, you can do a lot of things. Right? We're multifaceted. It's good. You can do all these things. You can be a scientist.
Yeah. I read somewhere that people on average switch a career 6 times. That's like an average as a statistic. 6. So I was like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Right? What's next for you?
Well, we look, and it's funny that you mentioned this, because if we're really talking about, this is a spiritual channel for truth seekers and for other spiritual leaders and spiritual inquirers, light workers, and so forth, that they can feel a place and be at home. And so the topics I try to have, we go where it goes, if it goes deep. And I think this is just right off the bat, talking about things that are soulful and passionate. And I think so many people need to get back to what makes them happy, or what intrigues them, especially if they can blend it and some people it's music, some people it's writing, some people it's
Hmm.
art, some people it's dancing,
I think
poetry.
you just put your finger on it because actually, without even having gotten into the reason I'm on the show with the children's book, that's the
Yeah,
main
we're
reason
gonna
for
go
this.
there. We're gonna go there.
I know, but that is the main reason I actually wrote the children's book. While it's describing an NDE, the hidden passion behind it, I really would love for people to be naturally engaged with spirit from an early age instead of having it all shut down the way our society operates and getting all left-brained and analytical, and then having to go through crisis later in life to find it again. So it's a that feeling
Oh
that you
yeah.
know what you're about and be playful with your passion or your soul talents kind of comes from having
Yeah.
stayed connected to the spiritual realm. And that's one of my wishes with this book, that would be a more effortless connection from
Well, I
childhood
back you
on.
up on that. That's I back you up on that. I tell you what, I did not have when many of mine happened in my childhood, a resource. Okay.
Mm, right.
And times have changed. There's so many things on NDEs now, but honestly, I haven't really, I mean, maybe it's out there, but I haven't really seen anything for children. And
No, there isn't anything out there. Mm-mm.
and that's kind of it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. I was involved with a uh, there's well, I've been involved with several of these afterlife groups, INS and Spiritual Awakenings International, but it's
Yeah.
come up in an advisory board meeting in the past, like about doing something for children because children in the year said we needed to help the children. We need to do something for the kids, but
Right.
it's a fine line because then you got the parents involved. So what we found is really you got to educate the parents first.
Absolutely.
What
Yes.
do you think about that?
I even find that with this book because the book is very
Hmm.
appropriate for children, and that is, I am like you, where I felt as a child I needed this insight or discomfort, and it wasn't available for me at the time, which caused stresses and consequences in my life that eventually led me to writing the book, so that it wouldn't have to be a repeat problem for children. But as now the book has been out for a couple of months, and people ask me, have you read it to a lot of children, and do you go and take it to schools? And while I totally could, I live very rural, so that's one obstacle. But it got me to thinking, like, why haven't I done more of that? And it is very much because it's a private communication between parents and children, and it's
Yeah.
very much linked to the spirituality of the home, but also just the topic itself has been so big and so somewhat difficult still to this day, as much as we know about it, that it is a one-on-one conversation very much. So it's very much the parents need to be involved. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so you just have me so intrigued. Every now and then we have these golden nuggets on the show, and here we are. We got a golden nugget with you.
Oh, thank you.
Who knew? You're so much more than an artist or a writer.
Thank you.
This is going to be good. So tell me about. Oh gosh, I know this is going to lead into your spiritual journey at some point here,
Hmm.
but we'll just stick to the book right now. You said
Okay.
you had this desire to be able to tell children, but now you've got this dilemma. I mean, I'll help you. I know people, um, but you do need to get this in front of people. But I do
Right.
see a dilemma being, or maybe it's just something to know about that the parents have to be a little educated too,
Right.
so they
Yes.
know how to position this to the children. So when you created this, what was your vision for what did you want to accomplish with writing this book? And what do you want to happen with this? Maybe we can all help you with this.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, that brings to mind a quote that I actually listened to because as an artist, I followed other artists. I don't know if you've heard of Nicholas Roerich. He is an artist from the previous century, quite mystical as well, and from Russia.
Okay.
He used to say, and this is a quote that I brought into my work: as soon as you created a piece, let it go because it's taken on a life of its own and it needs to travel its own journey and have its own
Mm,
purpose.
that's
And so
beautiful.
I quite feel like that happened with this book because here I have it in my hands finally now. But
It's
I
beautiful.
I first thought about this book 25 years ago when I had my children. My daughters were very little at the time, and I first ran into Dannion, and that was like my face for healing. The trauma and the stress that I had inside of me from not having known how to navigate my own experiences as a child. And so as that healed, the story became a purpose for me to put into creation and send out into the world to help other children. but it wasn't taking off for a long time. So I actually had to shelf it. And now I kind of chuckle about it because it feels like that book itself took on a life of its own, and it had to go through its own near-death experience in a way, you know.
That is
And
so
so
funny.
when I actually
Yeah.
got around to it again, it literally came about of its own because I was involved in another project, the creation of an angel deck, an angel oracle deck. And so the publicist somehow, through a clue from my husband, found out that this book was on my shelf. And, you know, they asked for it, and 3 days later, the contract was signed and the thing was in the works. So it was like I had given up on it, pushing it on the shelf, and it found its own way to come back to life, so to speak. So it really, I think, in a way, it's going to travel according to the need of the moment. There's a lot more talk about death now with this last couple of years that we've had, and
Yes.
you know, consciousness is shifting, and people are more aware of the stories that people bring back as they resuscitate them for medical, you know,
Yes.
advances. And so I think the field's just barely breaking open. And I hope that the book is around for a long time, but it is going to depend largely on the parents.
Well, this is all very doable and all very needed. Matter of fact, I just had on Dr. Raymond Moody and Paul Perry, and with the same publisher of yours.
Right, right,
And they, you know, I was asking them, why do they think, because everybody that I talk to, they want to know about NDEs, 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 NDEs,
right.
and they can't get enough of it. And they said, and I said, but oh no, we kind of made a joke about it. I said, but you both came from a time it wasn't exactly popular when you were doing the research. He goes, oh no.
Yeah,
And but now people want to know. And I was just talking to a
right.
gentleman the other day with Ines, the one I'm speaking to later tonight for the Virginia Beach group. And he
Hmm.
said he thinks it's become popular because people are seeing God in near-death experiences, because what people experience, which is somewhat the eye of God. I mean, some people may, with their near-death experience, just have out-of-body experience in a you know, medical procedure room, but that's still something. But most
Right.
other places, and they have stories and they have
Hmm.
experiences, and I think that people are trying to connect spirituality and what it's all about. And I also think there's a trend that's happening. I don't know if people are going to like hearing this, but away from the traditional churches and
Yeah.
or synagogues and stuff. And it doesn't mean that you should throw it away, obviously, but I think people want more and they're not getting their questions answered, so they're going rogue and they're looking at these NDE stories.
Yeah, and obviously we are in an information age. And I even read a statistic in just starting this whole discussion with my book coming out that it's now 1 in 25 Americans that have had some brush with an NDE. So that's
Mm. That's a
huge
lot.
spillover. Yeah, so that's also, I think, why the demand is higher, because people are trying to make sense out of their own experiences or someone that they know.
Yeah,
And like
yes.
you're saying, you know, traditions are crumbling, and we're reorganizing so many things. So I think the information is ready to find a place within, you know, the collective psyche.
Yes, and I think that I have this image when we talk about the topic of ascension a lot on the Seeking Heaven channel, or just the name Seeking Heaven. But ascension, that didn't mean that, you know, there may be like a phoenix flying out of those burnt ashes. Doesn't mean that it's easy, because people hold on to the things even if they don't serve them. People, that's why people are in yucky marriages for so long, or yucky jobs, is because we get comfortable. But I think that people realize that which is positive, they're putting their spirituality back in their own control and
Hmm.
seeking things for themselves. So, getting back to the book. So, what was it about? I mean, I love Dannion Brinkley's story, and he's such a trip. He's so, you know, he's so genuine. But
Right.
tell about, like, when you met him and what made you say, I got to turn this into a children's story. What happened?
Well, my husband was a publicist at that time, and so he made the connection with Dannion, and they're just such kindred spirits. It was friends from the start. So I got to see him behind the scenes, and that personal playfulness of him was obviously really fun to be around. But for me, it was definitely kind of a call. I mean, an answer to a call of my heart to find some healing. And when I, for the questions and the fears that I had carried since I was a child about having spiritual experiences and just worrying about what is death and what is it, you know, how does it take people away? It was something very strong on my mind, which I know is kind of rare for a child, but for me, that was very compelling. And so when I got to know him, realizing that someone had touched the other side and then brought back such practical know-how and such real switch of, love and that connectedness that we know, spiritually speaking, or even through our religions, is the language of the other side. That just opened a door for me that made it so empirical, and it was so refreshing that it gave me the confidence to to listen to the voice that I had within me that wanted to come out. Just like you said, when you were hearing his story, you could talk about your experience. And so I think he's done that for a lot of people, because he has such a boombox heart, and he really just fearless. He's quite a fearless man about what he experienced too. And so that was inspiring.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't read his book, that's it's very raw. It's very real. But I think a lot of these near-death experiences, that we take pieces of them, and it says the very least that life continues. There's something more, which makes this life more valuable. It also says that the love continues, which I know that being a medium, I didn't plan to be a medium. I was like this as a kid. But that the love goes on, and that's good news too. These are all good news. So this is putting control back and into our society. One thing I wanted to mention about children, I think, now you tell me what you think about this. I'm not a parent in this life, okay? Just disclose that, but I do have feelings about that. Is that I think a lot of parents are trying to protect their children, and they don't want to talk about it, but it's going to come up because it's life. There's going to be somebody that dies in the family, like a grandparent or somebody. And I know we're changing how we do funerals and all that now too, but they're going to know, they're going to have to experience it. Most kids don't understand things. Parents generally aren't equipped to handle it, except to say, well, grandma's in heaven, But then the book kind of answers that. So this seems like this would be extremely helpful and friendly, but kids do ask. I was asking things at an early age. Really early. I was asking things.
I did keep the book very friendly, so it doesn't actually pivot into the heavy side of, dealing with death. But in my own reflections, I realized the heavy side of dealing with death is always about the loss and the grief, and that is really looking at death from this side of the coin. And so what I did with the book is open it up, through the near-death experience to the other side of the coin, so you get a glimpse into what it's like in the other side for a child, so that their visual imagery, the internal, their imagination can take it and kind of blend with their feelings or their experiences. Because, as I know, that a lot of kids is very spiritually in tune, before the rational mind wakes up. All of us have those faculties very much. So I'm hoping that it will help them just keep the conversation alive, and then start something with the parents as well, to find a place for, the language of our hearts, or the spirit.
So look, some of you are watching are parents. Put if it's live chat, put it there. If it's comment, put it there. And would it be helpful to have a book to help explain in a sweet, loving, beautiful way to help your children? Put your comments there. I think it's really needed. So we just got to get it out there. And I think this is a fantastic idea. And what a beautiful coffee table piece too. I mean, I just can't stop looking at that image of the way of going there. I mean, I can't stop looking at that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a journey for me to capture the right images too, because life has been 25 years since I first got the idea, but that was part of my journey. Is like, how was I going to illustrate something that's so profound? Because, as you know, having touched the other side 6 times, the energy of the other side is so profound that as soon as you either put it into words or on paper, something is lost, because it's just so vivid and so real. And so when I struggled with that, I had really had to fight my own rational mind to pictures of how he fell into the light, and let me see, this kind of thing. And so I started seeing it through the eyes of Dannion, because he has endorsed the book, and it's his experience that I largely tell the story through. But of course, I had to also make it my own. And I remember feeling, frustrated that I hadn't actually seen the other side as tangibly as I wanted to in order to capture it. And I remember that's one of the feedbacks that I got from Dannion. He would say, you should be lucky. You should feel lucky that you haven't had to die to get to this understanding. And that stuck with me, because you yourself have had 6 near-death experiences. And on the one hand, it's wonderful to say, oh my gosh, what it's like. But nobody looks at the fact that you had to die 6 times and what that was like. That must have been so much pain and struggle in your body to come back from. So that's the heavy side of it. And I'm
Right.
really grateful that I haven't had to die in order to capture the truth of the reality that life goes on and what it feels like, and that I was able through my spiritual understanding to grasp the feeling of it and have the experiences and then capture them in the artwork. So what I focused on then is, instead of saying I've been there and I've seen it and this is what it looks like, I realized I got to the point that I've been there in my spirituality, in my meditation, in my constant communication, and I know what it feels like. And so the images that I ended up
Yeah.
painting are feeling oriented. And so I'm hoping that it'll wake up a feeling in the parent and in the child that then prompts their own experience so they can talk about it and find a place for it. So it isn't like set in stone, like, oh, this is what it's like, take my word for it. It's, this is what it feels like. What's your experience? And in the end of the book, there's some questions as well to prompt more discussion. What is your experience and how did you perceive the truth of this book and what it represents?
No, I think this is incredible. I mean, matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and do it publicly. You're welcome. I have an Ascension School. We could do a course for parents. We could do it a little webinar.
Thank you. I would like
And,
that.
yeah, and think about it. And again, do
Mm-hmm.
it where it's doable, something that just resonates with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll figure it out. We'll talk after this.
Okay. That sounds
And
lovely.
but that way you can help them. We'll post it there.
Mm-hmm.
Where they can have access or whatnot, because I'm have this Ascension School and I have guest teachers and so forth too, because
Mm-hmm.
people need help. So I just want to offer resources.
Right.
um, some are paid and some are free and, what have you, but,
Mm-hmm.
resources for people. So this is phenomenal. I got to tell you, I am
Thank
a
you.
child NDE. I've had all 5 of mine were in childhood. It
Wow.
was not easy.
Amazing.
All different
No.
things too, different things having to do with the head, nail through the head,
Oh,
head
wow.
through the windshield, different head things. One
Mm-hmm.
was the drowning. They're different ones. I mean, okay. So it's a wonder I made it. But I don't know if you've ever read PMH Atwater's book
I
on
have.
Forever
Mm-hmm.
Angels. Yeah, I feared you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it. But
Mm-hmm.
anyhow, she talks about a lot of these children have
Mm-hmm.
either abuse, or the worst is neglect. Like, who's
Mm-hmm.
watching Mimi?
Mm-hmm.
She's in the bathtub. Oh, nobody's
Right.
there. So, a lot of, because I've talked to a lot of childhood NDErs, and
Mm-hmm.
they have their whole life, they're, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and up, where they've spent their whole life trying to unwind and undo
Absolutely.
this trauma. None of
Right.
the near-death experience, because that was the good part.
Right.
But it's the stuff leading up to it that was
Right.
upsetting. That where were they?
Right.
Like Ingrid Honkala in the bathtub. Where did they? Someone left her unattended. So where were they? Where was I? When I was drowning or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. I think this. Children, people don't like to hear this, but children do. There's a lot of NDErs that
Mm-hmm.
had them as a child. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why I feel it's critical to get
Mm-hmm.
this information out there.
Right.
And we've got to do better at educating the parents and letting them know it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And you can
Mm-hmm.
still keep your religion or not, or whatever. It
Right.
has nothing to do, near death experiences have nothing to do with if you are atheist or religious or non-religious or whatever. That has nothing to do with it. I mean, if you're human, at some point we're going to all experience it. And a joke I always say is, if you haven't had a near death experience, there's still time yet.
That reminds me also of what Dannion's joke is about that. He says, right now is as dead as you're ever going to be. And I thought that was
Yeah.
profound too, because, as we die, of course, it's an important moment because we have to shake our body, and that process is obviously intense, physically speaking. But when our soul frees up from the body, we are going to go to that same, experience of spirit of the other side. And
Yes.
all of us are going to, at some point, experience it. You're right. But a comment I wanted to make about the book of PMH Atwater is that reading it, she actually endorsed the book, and so her
That's
quote is on
great.
the back. And so, in getting to know her and her story, I read her book, and I have to say, I found myself 98% of the examples were me, but or at least for me, recognizing how I had that same disorienting questioning in my heart all my life. But the only option she had given to explain the experience because of her research was, as you said, a near-death experience, a trauma that has not been diagnosed in a child between 0 and 5. But my mom is still alive, and so I was able to check with her, and there really isn't any sign that I had a trauma experience that would cause a near-death experience for me. So it made me wonder, and I asked her, and I haven't heard back yet, but I wonder if there's just that third category of children that just have a natural spiritual inclination, whose spiritual faculties are just more accessible than others for whatever reason, and that they also are just as disoriented as the ones who are forced through an NDE through trauma. Because the question comes up, and I thought PMH really articulates that well, is that when you're a child, as an adult, if you have an NDE, you take some time to process the glorious impressions you get from the other side, but you already have an idea of this world. So learning to navigate it is not as difficult as when you are a child and you don't yet know what
True.
this world is about. And all you bring back is this feeling of heaven and how loving and how complete you felt there. And children have that very strongly, whether or not they've had significant trauma. And so learning that in the world to dismiss all that, because our world is so materialistic and so chaotic at the moment, I think of some of the reasons that I experienced such stress. And I believe that with a children's book like this, that makes it very natural and very welcoming and effortless to see the connection we have to spirit and how easy it is to transition from one into the other, and how that world is overlapping ours and communicates on the daily, really. Then that becomes a flow that I hope that guides and stays with the child as they grow older, and maybe alleviate some of the suffering that comes from not having an outlet.
I know that it will. And you're
Yeah,
right. You don't, as a child, you have things that happen to you. You don't have the vocabulary really of this world, and you
right.
certainly don't have the vocabulary of the other world. And so you have to process it within yourself.
Yes.
And a lot of adults have done that. I've met a lot of people that are like, I mean, over time in different places that maybe have near-death experience conferences or what have you, that are maybe in their 70s or 80s, and they've kept it in their whole life because they didn't know how to really explain it or have the
Right.
words. And so
Right.
now that, and it's difficult because you're explaining a higher vibrational plane. But also another thing to think about, because you had mentioned, are some of them predisposed to just understanding this? I think yes, but I think it's because we're going to get a little deeper. Oh yes, Tamara, we're going to go there. I'm telling you, Maria, here we go.
Okay.
I think we decide before we come here. We have a team of
Mhm.
elders. We decide, okay, God
Mhm.
elders. I mean, they're not all God. They're helping out. They're little helpers. Okay. Angels, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Your guides, doesn't really matter. We want to put labels on things, but they assist, and we decide coming here certain things that we will go through. We don't know the form it will always take, but
Right.
when we come in, some of children, including myself, remembered the other side, and we kept that connection, right? we
Right.
kept we kept that connection. And the
Yeah.
ones that are the artists, that are thinkers, or the free thinkers, are the ones that want to improve and have a better world and so forth, that bring the beauty to this world, like yourself, they're automatically different because you don't go along with the status quo, which, by the
Right.
way, you're my kind of people. Okay. We need you. We need to
Right.
duplicate you all day long. I mean, if we're going to do AI, let's duplicate people like you, Marie. But I think that there is kind of, like, people call it. I don't know about the name. Labels are kind of weird, but like these indigo
Mhm.
children, they're saying, that are coming in,
Right.
that are very aware, that remember all these, superpowers and know things, and they're ascended and they want to teach love. I think that there are generations of that come in, and I think now that people are open to this, and then with things that are going on. I can't say certain words on this platform, but things that are happening in the world that we know about that
Hmm.
makes people want to understand about, death, life, afterlife.
Right. Hmm.
And this is something that's only going to enhance, and children are part of that equation. It's the circle of life. It's part of life. They have to know
Yeah.
about this.
Right.
So I commend you on it, and
Thank you.
I do think that there is probably another category of people that are connected already when they do come in and they do feel
Hmm.
that vibration, if you want to call it the heaven vibration. But the other
Hmm.
way of looking at it, that's our birthright. That's where we're from. It's not like
I agree.
we
Right.
just forgot. That's all.
Hmm.
I mean, if
Yeah.
we were remembered, we would be like, why are we doing this crappy place? Just not that we're going to all
Well,
drink the Kool-Aid. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But maybe
no.
it's a good positive reason why we don't fully remember everything, because it's such a state of unconditional love and bliss. It would be hard to operate here.
Well, and it's obviously also the reason we're here, that we're co-creators. And so what are we going to make of it?
Mm,
And I feel that the more we remember
right.
the feeling, I've spent a good part of my life, aching for the other side because I remembered it. But instead of going forward, I wanted to crawl back into that kind of feeling so that I could be safe. Instead, now that I'm at the point in my life where I realize that is a blessing that I could feel it so that I can bring it with me and then create with that. And so I think
Yes.
that the difficulty was for me not being sure that what I was feeling was true. And so I attracted the right people that gave me the confirmation of the authenticness of the experience. And then I got my confidence up. And that's, again, an attempt of this book so that children wouldn't, that phase, which is probably, unescapable. It's part of your own awakening to your own skill set and your own truth. But that process is faster so that they can move forward with bringing the love with them. And then, God willing, we can do something about this planet and the chaos that we're in, bring some wholeness, bring the love, and create with a vision of freedom for everybody to express that truth from themselves. And I tried to make the book, I didn't try, I actually did. I made the book, non-denominational, because
Sure.
the researchers like Melvin Morris and Raymond Moody have found out that these experiences are global. People around the
Oh,
world
yeah.
have near-death experiences that have the elements in common, even though they have cultural differences or, understanding from their background or their age. There are elements that they have in common, as you mentioned already, and those are the elements that I highlighted in the book, so that a child who read it would be introduced to the basic elements of what happens when you die. And then a parent can add the philosophy that is appropriate for their family, but again, make it so that the child, can understand your loved ones, move to a heavenly realm, or that, the continuity that makes us want to invest in our lives, because it's not for nothing. It's not whatever is it for, there's no point to this existence. That bleak existentialism, I think, is really the
Yes.
enemy, so that we could
I
really
agree.
just have a feeling that it matters, even if you're just adding one little bit to the big picture. It matters because we're constantly
Yes.
evolving together.
Oh, amen. I can't tell you. There was
Yeah,
a book that came out a while back. Don't mean to bash anyone, because I'm all about promoting people and the love
yeah.
and the unity. But there was a book that came out a few years ago called Conversations with God. And I read a little bit of it and I was disgusted, because it says nothing matters. It
Oh,
basically, and
oh
we're
yeah,
God. Okay, we're
yeah,
part of God. Yeah,
yeah,
actually, everything matters. That little drop, that little thing that you gave that person $2 might have
yeah.
might have, who knows, bought them the gas,
Right.
or I don't know what $2 can do, but we don't know. But everything matters. That's the whole point of it. Everything
Yeah.
matters. A smile to a stranger that might have thought about taking their own life changes them. So
The
I
little acts
thought
of
this is
kindness.
a little
Hmm.
act of kind. Everything matters, and everything is love. And so we're a part of
It's
something
probably
that's bigger.
something, when you read that nothing matters, it was probably meant in the exact opposite intention, that, when heaviness comes to weigh you down and your problems seem insurmountable, it was probably meant in that idea that don't let anything
No,
stop you or bury you. No?
it wasn't.
Oh, because
No, I
that's
read
how I
3
would
chapters
introduce
of
it.
it, and I didn't like the philosophy at
Oh,
all. I didn't think it was very
I
divine, but
haven't
that's
read
just
it,
me.
but
Somebody else may
mhm,
really like it. But
yeah,
to me, it everything matters. I mean, everyone
yeah,
is so, as Jesus tells me, I mean, because I saw him in my NDE, so he talks up a storm. He's very funny.
mhm,
But he talks about people are like flowers. And he
yeah,
says, how boring would it be if you had a bouquet and they were all like, Gerber daisies? He said, but if
right,
you had some African violets and some
mhm,
exotic, petunias or this
right,
or that, he said it would be beautiful, or geraniums or hydrants,
mhm,
and, hydrangeas. And I was like, yeah. And he says, that's how I see everyone is so uniquely beautiful and different. And so
right,
this is going to help kids so much. I do want to, before we end off,
mhm.
wanted you to show your other cards that you have, and you
Oh,
do other things. I wanted to promote you
right.
because you do such beautiful work and you're such a
Thank you,
beautiful, soulful person. So I wanted
thank
people
you.
to see what else you're doing as well. Of course, you need to buy Danny's Day in Heaven. You need to have that for your coffee table, so which they
And
can buy on
actually,
Amazon.
I've heard people say that you don't
Hmm.
actually, although it is a children's book, you don't have to have children
No,
in your immediate
it's
environment
beautiful.
because even as we age, or people that are in hospice themselves, the colorful illustrations that really have the feeling of the other side can prepare their hearts and their understanding as well for what they're about to, go into as their next adventure. So,
And you know what would also be helpful? And this is way out there, you might not have thought about it, but
yeah,
you know how some people, when they get elderly and they get
yeah,
dementia, they can't understand big concepts? That
yeah.
this book may help them.
Yeah, it simplifies the topic, and it's such a
Mhm,
big, overwhelming topic so far. So it's
mhm.
it's a useful tool there as well, and people have given me that feedback. So you could try it
Oh, they
out.
have. Okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
could put it on the coffee table of, like,
Yes.
senior centers, because it would
Right.
be good for the grandkids coming in, but it would also be good for the people there,
Yeah. And
and it
it's
would.
the main feeling of it is very reassuring because that's the biggest demon of death, the fear of the unknown and just the loss, the feeling of
Mm,
grief. And so realizing that the unknown can be a little bit more known so that you have some orientation and some feelings to navigate it by. And then to feel the beauty and the colors and the life and the love and the anticipation of that definitely outweighs. And it's not make believe, it's all rooted in the real life experiences of people around the world,
yeah,
such as yourself, that have had near death
yes.
experiences. So it's a story you can actually really hopefully find yourself in.
I can't wait to see all my pets.
Yeah, right. That's also represented
Oh,
in the book.
oh, yeah, because 'cause they're gonna be
Yeah,
there as well. So,
yeah.
okay, show us this card deck.
Okay, so this is it's an angel oracle deck. I did it together with Karen Noe. She's an angel medium on the East Coast, and she wrote the messages, and I did the artwork. And so it's like angel art and um, different cards with different messages.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. From archetypal images such as the staff of Moses parting, the real from the unreal, to angels or little baby angels, and
Yeah.
a representation of Archangel Zadkiel. And so different 44 different paintings with different messages that are all designed to help you get back into the flow. It's very much a card deck that addresses any stuckness you might have. So it doesn't really
Oh,
tell
that's
you per
interesting.
se what to
Okay,
do, but
so
it
pull us
helps
a
you come
card.
through.
Pull us a
Okay.
card. Pull me a card. I don't know.
Pull you a card.
Okay,
Okay.
pull the card for the day for everybody. I don't know.
The card for the day for everybody who's watching
Mhm.
Tamara's show. Okay, here we
Yes.
go. Creation. Look at that. The card says creation,
Ooh.
and it says Archangel Jophiel is helping you to manifest the life of your dreams. So, can
Oh,
you
I
see?
received that. That's awesome. I've got a picture of Joe Field around the corner. I got angel stuff everywhere. I mean,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
it's pretty. It's not creepy. I've got like
So,
original art.
oh, nice. So there's a booklet with it that will give you a deeper message about what other, thoughts and impressions are associated with creating a life of your dreams and having the support of angels in your creation. But that's today's card.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. I received that. I hope everybody else
Thank
does
you.
too. And one other question for you.
Yeah.
Your art is so freaking beautiful, and you have no idea,
Thank
but
you.
I love peacocks. And I
Okay.
have peacock art and so forth. I have a peacock I bought from another artist on the wall.
Yeah.
Is there a place, or do you have a website? You're going to say no, Tamara.
No.
People can buy prints of your art because it's so pretty.
Thank you. I have a website. It's MAK, my initials, makfineart.com.
Let me put it in the chat.
Okay. Thanks.
MAK Fine
Mhm.
Art.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the story of the peacock is actually, it's also a soul story for me because I've been doing this for some time now, but in 2015, I was still just hemming and hawing. And every time I created some art, I was apologizing to I'm sorry I created this.
Why?
And it was just, well, because I guess it's my inner makeup, I'm just still trying to grow up here. But then I was in Florida and my mother-in-law had a peacock in her yard. And it's just it felt like a message from God saying, peacocks don't apologize for the things they create of who they are. It says, and so it's not vanity, and you don't have to worry that it's arrogance when you create something. Just stand behind it and put it out there. And so that's what I did with the peacock. It reminds me to stop, being fidgety about what I put out there, and just to realize that is my attempt to bring some beauty to the world, and that's what the peacock represents.
Oh, I love it. Well, to
So
me, it's the owning my, any kind of intuitive psychic awareness,
yeah.
proud, hold your beauty out there. Don't
Mhm.
be ashamed of your beauty, in the world. I see here you do have prints that you can buy. How big are the prints? I'm seeing the celebration of the peacock. Celebrate life. Get a peacock.
Right. Well, I can do the small. I have 11 by 14s right here that I can just
Okay.
put in the mail to you. So it's
Oh,
easy.
that's what you've got.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing beautiful art. You've got to
Thank
check
you.
this out. Y'all got to check this out. There is some beautiful art. This is a nice website. And
Well,
you can
thank
order the
you.
book, different places where you can see to get Danny's Day in Heaven. Do you do
Mhm.
signed copies as well?
I can. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, there you go. That could be a great Christmas gift, Danny's Day in Heaven for a coffee
That's
table
true. Yes.
because it's beautiful. The art is fantastic and the message. And this is a really good example. I see so many people that, art to me is not art. Art is something that inspires and motivates, encourages, and
Mhm.
soothes. Not, it can stir you. That's cool too, but not upset you. It shouldn't upset you in any way
Right.
or turn you off. It should be the
Right.
opposite of emotions and so forth. But the message that you're trying to get across, I don't know if it could really, especially a child, come across unless it was done with visuals.
Well, that's what I thought with a child too, because the other one. That's why I think the topic has stayed in the world of grown-ups because they have the abstract thinking to process the ideas. But this is the first book of its kind that actually illustrates the concept of what happens when we die.
You're going to do more of
Yeah.
these.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to say
Life's pretty full.
you're going to say Tammy's Day in Heaven with Jesus. I spent 3 days with him.
Wonderful. I'd
It
love
was
to hear that
awesome.
story.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
believe that.
sweet. But
Wow.
you're going to do different ones because this is going to take off. There's going to be a need. And
Thank you.
timing is kind of strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been told about timing. You say God has a timing. You go, what's that
Mhm.
mean? But maybe 15 years ago, you put it out. Maybe
Mhm.
let's just say I'm making this up, but maybe it wasn't so receptive. But now, and like you said, you shelf
Right.
it well, but now people
Yeah.
got to have this. They want more information. People that I know watch this channel, they have children, a lot
Right.
of them, or grandkids even. You
Mhm.
can, and you don't have to be old to get this book. It's beautiful. So buy the
Right.
book. Uh, You've got beautiful artwork and cards and everything else that you've done. You're going to be doing so much more. I just thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your beauty in this world and not hiding like a gopher and going under, what is it,
Right.
Groundhog's Day? They go under the rock. I don't know what a gopher's
Right.
Groundhog's Day. What do they do? I don't know. They hide in a little
I live
grassy
in a
hole.
gopher area. Yep, they go in little holes. They just burrow.
You just stand
Gopher
proud
time.
like a peacock
Mhm.
and then people can find you.
And that's one of the reasons I think also why it took so long because the message was something that I had to embody also, the message of the book and how we are spiritual beings having a human experience and the power of love that we create with is really what makes life so magical. I had to own that. I couldn't just be telling someone else a story only. It had to also be my own. So I think as you buy the book and read it, it won't be just a story for you either. I think it's going to prompt you to have that same change inside of you, so you really actively participate in your own life. And that's, another wish I have with this book.
I stand behind that. I ditto that. I do think this is also
Thanks.
going to happen. What you said. I'm
Yeah.
about to have a fit. What kind of earrings do you have? And did you make those?
Oh, I don't know. My adopted daughter, she brought them for me from
Oh,
Mexico.
because you match the background.
Thank
I'm like,
you.
look at her. You're a piece of art. You're art. You're
Thank you.
walking art. The way you communicate and your own inner
Thank
beauty
you.
shining
Thank
through.
you.
You're a walking canvas yourself. So.
Thank you so much. That's a sweet compliment.
Well, I just see what I see. Thank you,
Thank you.
Marie. I will, encourage everybody to buy Danny's Day in Heaven. Check
Thank
out
you,
Marie
Tamara.
Antoinette Kelley, as well as stay tuned. We'll do something on my Academy of Divine
Awesome.
Wisdom.com. So sign
That
up. We'll
sounds
figure it
great.
out. We'll figure it
Okay.
out.
That
Thank you,
sounds wonderful.
everybody. Thank
Thanks,
you. Much
Tamara.
love to you, Marie. I appreciate it.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.